Hey, I'm Zach.
And I'm Jesse.
And we're going to take you for a ride in a Tesla police car. Next
on Now You Know.
Hey everybody, we're here with Chief Koskinas of the Westport, Connecticut Police Department. And behind me, you're seeing something that you don't just see at every police department in the country. This is a Model 3 Tesla police car. Chief, thank you so much for inviting us down here. I really appreciate it. How did you guys get a Tesla police car? What brought that about?
We live in a very progressive community. The community is on us on reducing our carbon footprint. What are we doing for the environment? There's been many initiatives, everything from removing plastic bags and plastic straws. So the town is really on top of this. It's not just the police department. So having the support from the community and being able to tell somebody that this is the movement, this is how we move forward, having the support certainly made it easier. So a lot of the things that come up are, why a Tesla? Why does the police department need a performance car, a luxury car? So that's when we got to pause a minute, because the reality of it is there hasn't been another police car or another car that could be a police car on the safety side and also on the crash rating side, but also the performance. So a lot of people will say, why do you need to go so fast? It's very simple. Picture a police officer doing speed enforcement on the side of the road. Okay. A car goes by at 55 miles an hour. He is starting from zero. It really becomes a time and distance. So do we want, and this is not to knock some of the other electric cars, a car that takes 9 seconds to get up to 60 miles an hour. Right. So when you do time and distance, we are taking longer to catch up to the offender. The offender is speeding away much quicker than we can catch up. So in order to only make it up to 60 miles to catch up to him, at some point that car has to hit 75 or 80 to catch up. So what are we doing? We're putting the driver, the officer at risk, and anybody who's around him. So when you start doing the math, there's a practical side to this. At the same time, as a police chief, I can't put my officers in harm's way that the car that I'm getting you is lesser on the crash ratings, or it doesn't have the same quality of crash ratings. So that's how we ended up here. That's why the Tesla. Additionally, by getting this model, the performance of getting over 300 miles possibly on the charge puts us in an area that we can run more than 2 shifts. And get through on the same, we're running about 16 hours before we need a charge.
Really good point that you brought up there, because I think a lot of people, when they hear Tesla, they're thinking the initial luxury cars, the Model S and the X, which cost over $100,000.
Correct.
So they're thinking, oh, so you spent that much money on this car. But you didn't. It's a Model 3, so I'm assuming that you were probably closer to the $60,000 range.
This was $53,000.
Wow.
Even with the performance, and there was no, this is where Tesla has not reached the point of offering something different to municipalities or government. It was $53,000, and that's the same price that anybody that walks off the street gets. There was nothing different that was done for the. What they were able to do is find a car for us when we needed it. We weren't put on a waiting list, and they were able to work with us on color, performance, tires, brakes, things like that. So they did work with us. But as far as the value of the car, we paid what everybody else pays for it.
Interesting. Okay, so now you get a police car, and you're still going to have to do things to an off-the-lot car, right? You're going to have to put lights on it,
yes,
and I assume computer systems and stuff. So what did you have to do to get this car ready for a police detail?
So the lighting package is very important, because that's what keeps people away from striking a police car. That's what keeps them from moving out of the way and not getting in the officer's response. And at the same time, a lot of the reflective that you're seeing on the car. So this is where it got a little complicated, because there's probably hundreds of thousands of cars that are getting done each year when you're looking at Ford or some of the other models. This was one of. The companies that we went to outfit it had never done one.
Right.
The engineering companies that supplied the lights and made the lighting system for it had never done one. So even our radio antennas, some of the issues that come up, the whole top of the car is glass.
Right.
So that we don't have the luxury of drilling through and putting an antenna that sticks out. So all those things took a lot of time. It took a little bit of money. The beauty of it is when you are the first one doing it, these companies were more than willing to work with us.
Oh, because they know there's probably going to be more of these coming.
They knew that they wanted to also be on the forefront. This isn't something that you want to sit in the back seat and wait. So they were very willing, both financially and in concept of how much they were going to do with us.
Now, if I'm a police chief in somewhere else in the nation right now watching this, and I'm like, I've been kind of thinking about this, but I have all the same questions you probably had in the beginning. You know, how do I get the light package? How do I get the radios installed? Where do they go for that information?
So it depends what part of the country. Wayland is a Connecticut company, but they sell internationally. Okay. So you could go right to their websites. We've also been very upfront about Fleet Auto Supply. Was the vendor that outfitted the car for us. So in doing that, all that information is readily available.
Oh.
Our commitment was, in this company's working with us, that we would certainly let people know what we did, how we did it, and how we got here.
Oh, so you've kind of made it easier for the next group to come through because you figured out a lot of these problems.
It's almost like cheating at this point because we get the phone call, we're able to put them together with Tesla Direct, who they should be talking to. We're putting them together with an outfitter that is willing to work with them even if they want to use other lighting manufacturers. This is not saying that you only have to use Whelen. And all these guys need to work together because you're either moving ahead or you're looking in the rearview mirror. And in this business, especially police work today, you don't want to be looking in the rearview mirror.
So I'm a police chief. I've heard a lot of my residents maybe tell me about Teslas and how much they love them, but I'm afraid to take that next step because, yeah, I'm afraid that I don't really want to be on the cutting edge of everything. I want to let you guys do it first.
Right,
what would you say to them? Is this a step worth taking?
It's absolutely a step worth taking. I would warn places that have small fleets that you want to see someone else in the successes before you jump into it. We're a large enough department that one car certainly did not have an impact on the fleet. We're prepared to do a second one. We're certainly at a comfort place because it was an experiment. I mean, you don't want to spend this kind of money and say we don't know 100%, but you also can't get there unless you spend that kind of money. So it's one of those, who's willing to take the risk, who's willing to do it. What I will tell people, this car will maintain its value. If it doesn't work with your police car, you will get your money back as close as possible. So there wasn't that risk. Tesla's maintained. We knew that if a year later this wasn't working out, we could sell the car with a minimum loss. Right. So I would urge chiefs to take the chance, to take the risk.
Tell me about interactions with the community. What's it like when community members are, maybe interacting with the police officers in the car? Have they had different experiences than when they're, in a normal police car?
So in town, again, going back because it is a progressive town, there's a group called Sustainable Westport. It's a private organization, but also supported very well by the community. So initially, we had them do all the research as to what the savings would be, what it would cost to have this car compared to a regular car. So it made it a little easier for us, and certainly that data is available for other people, because we weren't supplying our own data. It was an independent organization that was able to say, look, this is what the car costs, this is what a police car currently costs, this is what you get per gallon, and this is what you will get per charge on it. So they did all the breakdown. So there wasn't a lot of, well, the police is just telling us because they want that.
Right.
We left it up to them. Is this a good deal for what work we do day to day?
So is it a good deal? So, I mean, basically this doesn't take gasoline, it takes electricity. Have you found that it's saving you money in terms of budget?
We have, and I'll give credit. You guys will meet Officer Sampson shortly. Look, our goal when we started this was under promise and over deliver. We did not want to be on the other side of it. We didn't want to come back and say, you know what, we thought we'd get this, but we didn't get that. So if anything, we completely under promised. We were expecting everything from brake wear to tire wear to mileage. Everything we did was on the lower end because we wanted to come back and say, you know what, it's doing everything we promised, and all the expectations were met. Currently, with the mileage it has, the brakes are over 96%. I had the mechanic, because the car brakes itself, it's incredible. It's just incredible because our police cars will replace brakes every 7,500 miles. They're always hot, they're always going. In a minute from idle, they'll go to very high speed and then extreme braking. It has not been the case with this. The car is not wearing the same. Tires, like you and I spoke earlier, the way the car is balanced, we're not seeing the wear on the tires the way we see it on our regular police cars.
Interesting.
So now you start adding oil changes, all those different things in the combustible engine, spark plugs as time goes on. So the savings is certainly there. When this car sits, it's still using electricity to do the air conditioning, it's still using electricity to do the heat, all of our computer systems, as are the combustible engine. The difference is that there's no carbon. The carbon footprint is immediately reduced because it's not sitting on the car idling.
Police cars spend a lot of their time idling. You're waiting for speeders or you're waiting for calls and so forth. What percentage of the time are they sitting there idling?
So the best example I can give you, a car that we will get rid of around 120,000 miles, road miles, will also have close to 300,000 engine hours. If you actually do the math, it's anywhere from 250 to 300,000 engine hours for 120,000 road miles. That is incredible numbers. When you actually do the mileage, it pushes the car mileage well into the 200,000 mile range.
Right.
If you were to equate what that time is and actual motor time running.
Interesting. So basically, up front, this car might cost a little bit more than, say, a comparable ICE car, but then you're going to start saving money from day one on tires and gasoline and so forth?
There's an upfront expense on day one,
Okay.
but I can tell you start getting it back on day two.
Interesting.
Upfront, in order to get there, yes, there's an upfront expense. Whether it be the lighting system because there's just not as many of them out there, or whether it be to put the right tires to meet the specifications that we need for police cars. But day two, the savings starts coming back.
Interesting. Now, what have you heard from officers who get to drive in it? Are they kind of lined up to do it, or were they kind of hesitant to want to do it?
Because it was the first one, we limited it to a certain group of officers, and we wanted to get the feedback. So it didn't get circulated throughout the department. The excitement was certainly there, and the officers who were assigned have not asked to come out of it, because in this business, if you don't like something, you just don't stick to it. So, and what's interesting is the primary officer this was used as a traffic unit. He said he's looking for one as his next car.
Wow.
So I can't possibly tell you, and I mean, I'll let Officer Sampson speak for himself. He said depending on what his wife does or where things are going, he's in the same boat. So we're looking at these things. The feedback's been tremendous. There's so many good words to use. We have not seen a failure yet, but at the same time, if you don't have people like Officer Sampson or other guys that can deal directly with Tesla, be on the same level on the tech side to communicate, which I don't have that skill set, this would have been a much harder project.
Interesting.
So you need to have the right people in the right places for this to be a success.
Because you need to speak the same language in terms of tech.
You do.
Okay.
I mean, if I spoke to Tesla, they would have probably hung up and we would have probably returned this. That wasn't the case. We had people in the right place. I was the motivator and the facilitator to get us there. There was a group of people that made it happen.
How does this car compare to your existing fleet of cars in terms of speed, like in terms of quickness?
This is probably not a car you give to a junior officer that hasn't been a police officer and experienced it. This is, it is. It's a lot of car. Yeah. It's a fast car. There's a lot of responsibility that comes with it, and we focused on that. At the same time, the benefits of it far outweigh those risks, because police officers should be responsible people to begin with.
Right.
But everything takes time.
Right. They need to get used to the car.
Absolutely.
Interesting. And this car has some advantages to it, I guess, over a regular police car. You were mentioning that the frunk, because you can control the frunk remotely. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, these weren't even anticipated. There were things that came along the way that were like, we can do this and we can do that. One of the simple options are, look, security of the vehicle, going back to safety, is at the forefront. There's weapon systems, there's computer systems that we don't want people having access to. So the police cars being secured at all times is important. Well, that creates a problem when you have a one-man car police car or one-woman car police car, and you go to a scene and now it's a medical call, and you need medical equipment. So as you're doing, whether it be CPR or tending to severe bleeding or just even helping somebody along with your presence, you need medical equipment. It's very simple. The officers are all issued their department phones. They're in tune with the vehicle that they're driving. And we dedicated the front compartment that you can open from your phone as the medical compartment.
Okay.
So you can literally send anybody, whether it be another police officer or somebody on scene, and say, go to the front of the police car, get me my defibrillator, get me my oxygen, get me whatever you need to, or grab all the bags and bring them to me. So it gave us an opportunity to give access to anybody to the police car.
That's
to give
so
the
cool.
equipment, where we can't do that right now with our other cars. By giving them access to the trunk, you've given them access to everything.
Right, because as a civilian, I didn't really understand before that you've got equipment in here, like weapons that you can't let just the...
And it's not also the privacy of you, your family. That computer system can put out a lot of information. Right. We don't need random people having access to that. This gave us an opportunity to do those things.
Right, because now you've got a compartment that you could open if you need to.
All right, so for example, I can go to my Tesla app, which controls the car. I can go to the unlock mode, and by just verifying and confirming, I can open the front of the car, ultimately giving the access that we were talking to all the medical equipment or whatever equipment we choose to do.
You know, you don't, like you said, you don't even think about it.
We didn't plan on it, but it's a fantastic feature.
Wow. Jesse, are you getting in the back of a police car?
Yeah, the first time.
All right.
Yeah, one. Okay. All right.
So what do you think, Jesse? What do you think about riding in the back of a Tesla police car?
It's really nice. I mean, it's just like riding in the back of any Tesla Model 3. They have the upgraded cushy seats and everything, so yeah, not too bad, I guess.
Is it the last time you want to ride in the back of a Tesla police car?
Well, I think the circumstances are pretty positive, so. Have you ever summoned this car, like using the app to have it drive itself to you?
No. That's not something
interested in doing it?
No, not usually.
Limited applications, I suppose.
Yeah, a lot of the Tesla functions themselves, I don't use the games. I don't set up the whoopee cushion.
Oh, that's the best.
But I'd like to take, where they have those things available to you, I want to change it. So once again, like I said, an officer is responding to a call. You're thinking about everything you got to deal with when you get to the call, and you're trying to keep your eye on the road, think about safety of yourself and the communities. You're going to a call. Now you got to play with this thing for lights. You got to play with this thing for siren. Here's your radio. Tesla has the technology, and we can build it into this to control, instead of having a radio per se screen pop up, I have a light and siren screen pop up. I can use the buttons on here. I can press this right button and I can ask the car for navigation. Well, let's incorporate the radio system into these buttons. And these are the ideas that we've proposed to Tesla, and we're working with their engineers to try to get some traction with it, to make this a better functioning car for public safety.
What's the conversation like with Tesla? Like, is it a kind of slow conversation where you send them an email or you talk to them and then months later you get kind of feedback? Or is it like, how would you describe that relationship?
So I want to say it's a good relationship, because we're the first department that they've actually sat down to talk with. It is slow because, obviously Elon Musk has his ideas of what should be incorporated into the vehicle next. But they do listen to us, and they do heed, what we say, and they're, looking at our goal. They're trying to help us with our goal as they decide, should Tesla become the next fleet vehicle for governments. That's a business model that they're going to have to look at adopting. And I get it's a multi-million-dollar, billion-dollar company, so they're responsive. But I want to say that, obviously it takes time to move our ideas into their timeline of what they would like to do with their vehicles.
Right. How do you like having the big navigation?
I think this screen is actually perfect, because if you think about it, if you look at any of my other patrol vehicles where I've had to put an MDT into the car as another piece, not only do you have the radio and everything else that you have to look at here, but you have a whole nother screen similar in size to what you're looking at here.
And has it done the trick? Like, do you find that it holds up for what you need it for?
It will. The major problem with it right now is the software for this computer is written in an HTML / JSON type of environment, where most of the software for policing at this point is written in Microsoft Windows.
Oh, interesting.
Combining the two, it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of commitment. Raycor, for the license plate reader system, they've given me the commitment that they will develop their system in the programming language that the Tesla's written in. In working with Tesla, they've agreed to release to me the API interface for their computer system.
Oh, nice.
To show them what they need to do and how they need to address the car to get information back from the car's computer.
So you guys really are doing cutting edge stuff. Like, this is really important for moving this forward for other police departments.
Well, we are trying. Chief Koskinas is a big fan of being on the cutting edge. I come from the computer industry, although I've been a police officer for just over 30 years. I do a lot of computer programming. I've been running the computer division here for the last 5 years. So I too I can see potential, and with a progressive company like Tesla, a progressive chief will back anything that I ask for. I think that if we take our time and put this type of car together right, Tesla could have a new market, and police officers could be a lot safer in what they do.
Looking to the future, do you think there'll be more Teslas adding to the fleet?
So we're looking at possibly a Y, which is the SUV style, just because we want to see what the differences would be. Fleet Auto Supply, who did all the wiring in this car and installed all the lights for us, they have a Model Y at their shop right now that they're building for New York. So I do. The first selectman here has made a promise, and the town has signed on that this town will have zero emissions as of the year 2050. So I think when it comes to public safety, we're trying to get ahead of that curve and work with that goal. I think, you know, if everything works out correctly with this one over the next year or two, that, you know, I could see our whole fleet probably going to an electronic design and cutting out the carbon engines.
Do you have any experience with using autopilot in this car, or is it not appropriate to use?
So I do not have the autopilot feature turned on in this car.
Okay.
I don't believe it in policing. It's probably not necessarily appropriate. The type of driving that we do doesn't lend itself to long, you know, drawn out drives where you have to worry about it. It's more this stop and go, drive a little bit, get to a stop sign.
And how about the headlights in this car? Are they adequate for what you need? Because I've seen, you know, obviously other police cars can add additional headlights, but have these been bright enough?
So these LED headlights are actually very bright, and when you put the high beams on, it's phenomenal what the light output that you get from a Tesla vehicle. So I would say that they're more than adequate. They're really good.
Oh, that's great. All right, so Officer Sampson, we're in front of an i3. What is this doing here?
So this is a vehicle that was donated to the town and given to us by a very generous person here in town. And what we decided to do, because it doesn't have the exact capabilities that we would need in patrol, was give it to school security. There's a very large campus here that school security is responsible for covering during the daytime when kids are in and out of school. So it was a perfect fit for them to utilize it.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, we're at a big high school right now, and you have to get around, and I'm sure it would take a long time to get around the building, and this is the perfectly suited for it.
Absolutely. This, like I said, this is probably the perfect fit for you know, smaller security. It goes right along the line with we use, you know, Toyota Priuses, electric vehicles, hybrid vehicles for our traffic safety. But because we don't need to carry the type of equipment in this, and we don't need the performance factors to do school security, this vehicle fit right into our
It's great. They've got chargers right here at the school.
Absolutely. Is my microphone still hot?
Yes.
I'm about to show you what this thing does.
Nice.
You guys start screaming like little girls. I want that making the cut. Let these people get a little bit ahead because we're gonna catch up real quick. So I'm gonna put us at 0.
Oh yeah.
There it goes.
Woo.
So as you can see, the car has the performances capability that you need.
Yeah, it does. And what are your thoughts about the Cybertruck?
I think it's interesting. I have not seen one physically yet. I did see the release of it, but given the opportunity for me to work on one, I would absolutely say yes, because I would never say no to new technology. If I was a patrolman out here patrolling this highway all day, the performance package would be fantastic, because you know, nobody drives 55 miles an hour anymore.
Right.
And in some states the speed limit is 80. So to be able to go from the side of the road to catch up to the people that I need to catch up to in a safe manner in the shortest distance possible, so not putting anybody else in harm's way of me driving like a crazy person, it's just much better off.
Do officers ever sneak up on people with this car?
Absolutely. I turn my lights off, and it's a nice dark car, and the lettering doesn't stick out unless it's hit by a headlight, especially at nighttime. We officers call that, around this area, we call that capering. You can caper very well in this car. I was actually sitting on a business that was closed the other night while I was working, because the next town over had burglars come in and hit 3 cell phone stores. So I was at the cell phone stores downtown, hidden across the street in an open parking lot with my lights out, and very hard to detect if they would have come my way.
Oh, there's the turn and look.
Yeah, you get a bunch here from these kids over.
Yeah. It's just wild seeing people see a police car and just point and smile at it.
All right, so Officer Sampson, I heard from the chief that basically in a police car, and I'm a civilian, I didn't know this before, that basically you need to secure weapons. How are they secured in the Model 3?
Well, the Model 3 Tesla, what we did was we actually put the rifle and a handgun lock inside the vehicle.
Oh, okay.
In the trunk to keep it out of the way of the officer inside. Very simply, slide it in and wait for the locking mechanism, and it keeps it out of the way. And like I said, we also have a handgun safe in there that is available to the officer. And as you can see, other equipment that we have to store in all of our police cars carry.
And have you found the storage in the Model 3 to be, comparable or enough for what you need?
So actually, if you think about it, in a normal police car, all of this equipment would be stored in the trunk itself.
Okay.
And like the chief said earlier, the balance of the car with the engine, things tend to get thrown off a little bit. So being able to split it up between the front and the back, not only does it make certain items accessible to, like the chief said, anybody that is on scene that can assist you, but there's other items that we want the police officers just to have direct access to. So it's actually a bonus to have a frunk and a trunk.
That's nice. It gives you more space, basically.
Yes.
Let's talk about the lights for a second, because they've really been catching me here. I heard from the chief that you had to find a supplier who could work with you to make kind of custom lights for the Model 3. That must have been kind of time-consuming.
So the lighting system, which was provided to us by Whelen, the biggest part is how to mount these lights into the vehicle and how to incorporate the lights into OEM factory sensors. Whelen worked with us and the installer Fleet Auto Supply to come up with the mounting systems, because there was obviously no mounting system for a Tesla. Then Fleet Auto Supply actually went ahead, did a lot of investigation into how to incorporate the lighting patterns into the OEM sensors in the vehicle.
Okay, so stop there for a second. So lighting patterns, I'm not really up on my police car lighting patterns, but I see that this is going, it looks like slower than what I'm used to. What can you tell me about, like, what is this pattern that we're looking at?
So typically, when you see a police officer responding to a call, you'll see a number of strobes going off in a relatively fast pattern.
Okay.
Those are attention getters, and that's what moves traffic out of the way, alerts people that you're coming. National studies have shown that once a police officer is on the side of the road and performing their duties on the side of the road, they want the pattern to slow down, because they don't want it to be an attention getter. They want it less distractible for the drivers approaching that scene.
So this is the slow pattern.
This is what they call the advanced warning system for the vehicle. So it actually, when the driver exits the front seat of the Tesla, the controller for it reads the fact that there is no driver in it, assumes that because the lights are on and no drivers in it, that the officer is out of the vehicle performing whatever function they're performing, and it automatically slows down. So oncoming traffic isn't distracted by the light pattern.
Okay, so I'm a police chief at another police department, and I'm hearing this now, and I'm like, that sounds I don't know about the tech on this. That just sounds way too complicated. How did you guys figure this all out?
Well, actually, the installer of the lighting did a lot of work on it. You'll notice that normal police cars are also utilizing this type of pattern change between responding and doing work on the side of the vehicle. It just was an extra step to incorporate it into the Tesla, because it had never been done before. Your Fords and your Chevys and your Dodges, they provide connections for the lighting systems, where Tesla, because this is an everyday sedan that you could buy off the dealer's floor and drive yourself, we had to come up with that and invent that.
Now, would those companies be able to share that with other police departments, so that they wouldn't have to go through what you went through and invent from scratch, or like?
So we were lucky, and Chief Koskinas managed to get us a non-compete, non-disclosure agreement with Tesla, so that we could work on these systems for other police departments.
Oh, great.
We will work with Tesla. We're working with their engineers now on a couple of issues that we're having with the vehicle. But once we've ironed these things out, we'll be able to forward that on to anybody else that wants to use a Tesla.
Oh, that's great.
And I got to be honest with you, we probably had close to 200 inquiries across the United States to date. One police department in New York just actually delivered their Tesla that they just purchased to the installer that we utilized for our lighting package.
Oh, great. So they can take advantage of all that knowledge that you guys have figured out.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's not the only technology that we're working with other companies on. We're working with a company out of Maryland called Raycor Systems. What Raycor Systems does is they do license plate reader systems. Okay. Now, on a normal police car, what you would see would be large cameras sitting off the trunk of the vehicle that would read license plates as either the car drove by, or this car sat stationary on the side. Raycor Systems, what they're trying to do is the Tesla comes with 4 built-in cameras, one in the rear, one in front, 2 off to the sides. And those systems are used in their Sentry mode, typically, which allows you to download video after the fact in case somebody came near your car, car senses that. Raycor Systems is going to utilize those cameras and incorporate their software into the Tesla computer to be a license plate reader system.
That's so cool. So you don't have to add extra cameras to the car then?
Correct.
Oh, that's nice.
So yeah, they're going to use the IP cameras that are built into the car in their system to do the exact same function of what one of those large cameras would be if I were to place one on this car.
Now, there is a computer in the car. Are you able to utilize that for police functions yet, or is it still just for normal driving?
Right now, today it's normal driving, but like I said, we're working with Wayland Engineering so that the controls that we use to turn the lights on and off will be controlled by that computer. We're working with Raycor Systems for the license plate reader to be incorporated in that computer. And we are having discussions with our police software company to see what they could do to incorporate some of their functions into that computer.
How far away do you think you are at being able to use the Tesla computer for your police functions that you need it for?
The overall software that we use for the police functions is probably another 12 months out. Raycor Systems, we are hoping for the license plate reader that they'll, any month now, they want to come back and start doing beta testing. I'm having phone conversations with them weekly. They've also come up with other products that we utilize on our phones now based upon what they were going to do with this.
Oh, interesting.
And Wayland Engineering, we're still in conversations. Unfortunately, COVID-19 has
Slow things down.
Slowed things. Too drastic for me because I, like Chief Koskinas, I want things to move ahead and I want to do it the right way.
Do you think there'll be cost savings when you can start using the Tesla computer for police functions? Because normally you'd have to, buy, I assume, additional computers.
So overall cost savings, yes, but those aren't as important as officer safety features.
Okay. If
you think about it, when an officer is responding to a call, not only is he have an MDT in front of him, which is giving him the information of the call, it's giving him background of what's going on there. Now he's got a light switch that he's got to play with to turn the lights on and off, to turn the sirens off, to change the modes. He's got a radio that he's got to deal with. The more technology we can incorporate into a vehicle and have it just in a single area, one thing to utilize, the car's computer itself, turning it on, turning it off, the less distracted an officer is. There's a lot of studies out there on distracted driving by not only civilians, but specifically police officers or public safety personnel responding.
Interesting.
Because we do have a number of gizmos that technology is catching up to the policing world. So the less gizmos I put in the car, the less technology,
the more they can focus on.
Exactly. Actually makes it a better fit for the police officers.
Right. Now you were mentioning that in a normal car, when you get home or something, you get out of the car and you want the car to just shut off and forget about it. But with a police car, that's not what an officer generally wants. Especially if they pull someone over on the highway, they want the car to stay, the headlights to stay on, for instance. How were you able to figure that out? Could you show me that?
We're working with Tesla right now. They've promised me that their next software update was going to do that. Typically, the Tesla turns off after 45 seconds when they're set on auto.
Okay.
And like you said, it's a hazard at nighttime when an officer pulls somebody over. I'm working with their engineers and just coming up with the software update of how they can just simply allow a public safety agency to not turn the headlights on, leave them on means on.
Oh, interesting. And if police officers are watching now and they're like, well, that must mean a tech has to come out and install the software. This is over-the-air software, I assume, right?
Absolutely. It comes with their normal updates that they send down, once a month, twice a month, but they are going to incorporate that into one of these software updates, and we're expecting it shortly.
That's interesting. So they're learning a lot from you because you're able to communicate your needs to them about what police cars need to have.
Yes, absolutely. We have a great relationship with Tesla. They're working hard. I don't know if they see this as a niche market coming in the future, but like the chief said, everybody's looking to go green. Everybody's looking to reduce that carbon footprint, and their vehicle is, from what we could tell, fits that market. So they're willing to work with us, listen to our ideas, and we're obviously willing to work with them and let them know what would make it easier for us to do our job with their vehicles.
Now, you've driven this around as a patrol car?
I have, yes.
So would you want to go back? Like, it sounded like from the chief that a lot of the officers who ride this don't really want to go back to an ICE car. Are you happy with it?
Well, extremely happy. The vehicle itself, like I said, the performance, the integration of the technology that we have today and what's coming in the future will make this probably one of the better police car capable vehicles in the market. The first few days I had this out, I actually pulled into a gas station. It's typical for a police officer to drive down the street, small kids to see, they wave, and the parents always walk up and say, hey, can my son sit in your vehicle and get a picture taken? The first time I pulled into a gas station with this, there was a gentleman and his son were there, and he couldn't believe this was a Tesla police car. He said, is that a real police car? I said, yes, it is. Before he could say, could my son sit in it and let me take a picture, he said, can I sit in it and can you take a picture of me sitting in it? And I said, absolutely.
So you got a bunch of big kids out there that need their picture taken with it now.
Absolutely. We have gotten nothing but positive feedback. You know, we try to bring this out. Prior to putting it into the patrol rolls, we brought it down to some of our busier areas in town. The feedback we have is nothing but positive. You know, everybody loves the Tesla. They love the carbon footprint is gone with this, and they just think that, you know, this is a neat car that nobody's ever seen before.
One of my goals is to get other police departments in the country to start switching over, but I don't speak the same language. I don't drive a police car and I'm not an officer, so I can't tell them that I know it's the better thing. But you are a police officer. What things do you say to other police officers to get them to at least try it?
Well, you know, once again, it goes back to what the chief said. If you think about a normal combustion engine, somewhere between 3,000 to 4,000 parts in it. You know, this one has 300 to 400 moving parts. So the wear and tear on the vehicle itself is a lot less, saving you money. The fact that you're not doing regular maintenance on the vehicle is a lot less, saving you money. So from a financial standpoint, it's very good. For the officers themselves, it's a 5-star crash-rated vehicle. Okay, safety for the officer. It has enhanced capabilities within the vehicle, like the camera systems that can be incorporated into the technology, making it easier for the officers. As Tesla and the Westport Police Department moves forward with the vehicle, I'm going to look to incorporate, like I said, more of our technology into it, making it a less distracting type of office, because this is our office, 8 hours a day, 16 hours a day, depending on how we work. But it's comfortable, it's nice to ride, it has the capabilities that a police officer needs, and overall, from management standpoint, it gives you the cost savings that you're looking for over the long run.
Speaking of the fact that, you know, as a police officer, this is your office. When an ICE car is idling, I think we forget, those of us who drive an electric, that it's so quiet when it's idling. Like, it's on right now.
Yeah.
When you're sitting there as a police officer idling, which is what you spend a lot of your time doing, what's it like now to go from this, which is quiet, back to you know, an ICE patrol car?
Well, so this is not our first electric car per se. We have other hybrid vehicles. Since 2007, we started with Toyota Priuses for our traffic division. We've upgraded those since then. But we also, in the spirit of testing everything, we purchased a Ford SUV hybrid vehicle, patrol car. I actually sat in that one the other night because it is a brand new car that we brought out. And you sit there for 5 minutes idling, watching traffic, and you're on the battery. Well, all of a sudden the engine kicks in. And I got to tell you, the first time it did that, I literally jumped thinking that somebody was attacking my car. So there is a large difference when you talk about it. There is no background noise. If you think about engine noise that you hear in your car, there is none. So my radio transmissions I hear a lot better, and I'm not worrying about every little ticking thing that's going on there. I can focus on my duties. I would much rather drive this than the hybrid that I drove the other night, to be honest with you.
And talk about when you do have to get somewhere quick. The chief talked about it, that these are very quick cars. What's it like to pull up on someone, that you need to pull over or you need to help someone with? Like, what's it like to be in a car that can go this quick?
Sitting in that car knowing that, I'm going to cut that distance down. I'm going to keep myself safe. I feel much more comfortable in driving this versus the other ones, because not only am I keeping myself safe, but I'm keeping the public at large safer because of a shorter distance to catch up to the vehicle. This car is extremely fast off the get-go. It does rival other vehicles when it comes to top speed, but we haven't seen it yet, and nor do I plan on seeing it, hopefully. It's the comfort factor of knowing I have a 5-star crash-rated vehicle around me. The fact that I'm not putting the public or myself in any jeopardy because of the quickness.
And you mentioned that you're talking to Tesla, and I'm betting that other police chiefs watching might be like, oh gosh, I don't know if I can speak techno to Tesla. Do you have to be a complete, engineer geek to speak to Tesla about the things you need, or how does that work?
So I'm going to say no, you don't. As a police chief, you always worry about cost savings, and those are easy items that you can add up. We've already done the homework for you. We're more than willing to help you out. As far as the technology stuff, it's just a matter of getting with the right installer and utilizing some of the troubles that we went through to get this to work. And there were a few bumps along the way as we started putting this together. But once we figured it out, it's much easier for those that are looking to utilize this type of vehicle. Model 3 makes a very good police car. An SUV style for those that are probably needing that little extra distance from the ground in communities like that. The Model Y is probably the best one to step up to. Matter of fact, consulted with a department less than a month ago. They just took a delivery of Model Y and sent it to our installer. So it is catching on, and other departments are starting to use it, but I don't need the big luxury boat. When I started this job, we did have the big luxury boats, the old Ford Crown Victorias and the Chevy Caprices. But in today's market, this is the size of the vehicle I need. It meets all my needs with equipment storage. It meets my needs with technology that I can put in it, and size and capability.
How about snow in the cold? You guys, we're in New England, you guys get snow. What's it like in the winter?
I'm going to say that because it's an all-wheel drive vehicle, the tires are set up for this type of atmosphere. This is going to be an excellent run in the snow. The other thing you got to remember too is the whole bottom of this thing is the battery. Your center of gravity is lower, and you have that weight to keep it down on the ground and traction control.
I mean, I assume in some of your duties you've had to do some fairly high-speed stuff and cornering and stuff. How does it feel?
It's almost like driving a race car. It's a very responsive vehicle, moves when you need it to move, corners well, because the vehicle brakes itself when you take your foot off the accelerator, I guess. It's a very responsive car. The balance of the car, because we're able to store stuff in the trunk and stuff in the front of the vehicle, it just stays at a nice even keel when you're going around corners. It picks up speed fast on the straightaways. It's a very capable vehicle for police activities.
I've always wondered about the back seats of police cars. I know that sometimes they're outfitted, especially like rubber seats and stuff like that. Is there options for that in the Model 3 that you know of? Or I don't know if you've done that to this car?
So currently today, this car does not have what we call the prisoner transport or prisoner cage.
Okay.
We are working with manufacturers once again to come up with a system that'll work for a Tesla, but we have not outfitted this. When we bought this vehicle, although it is running in our patrol fleet, we put it together with more of our traffic unit in mind. We wanted a car that blended in with all the other vehicles that we have out on the street there. We are, once again, working with a vendor to try to come up with a cage system for it.
It really is cool. When the lights are off, it does just look like a regular Tesla. And then as soon as the lights come on, you know immediately it's a police car. That's really cool.
Yeah, well, you do know it's a police car immediately, but it's one of those things that people still can't believe it.
Right.
Oh my goodness, I'm being pulled over by a Tesla.
So have there been interactions with people that are pulled over where they're kind of amused that they were pulled over by a Tesla?
Mostly the people driving by are giving you the thumbs up, or they're a nice car, great car. I actually, last week I was at a stoplight downtown and a Mustang GT pulled up next to me. And he looked over, he says, "You want to race?" And I said, "I'm probably going to win whether you're faster or not," but he said, "Beautiful car." So, people are astonished that it's a Tesla and that we've converted it into a usable, functioning police car.
I'm assuming that the police, other police officers were curious about this. Have there been more and more people kind of signing up to maybe get the car and be assigned to it?
So in-house alone, yes, I have a number of our own officers, but we're trying to keep it to a very few to begin with, because I'm still having them log things, what charge you left it at, how long to take to charge up, because there's small tech things that we need to figure out to make sure that this car is performing as expected. This car is performing better than expected, I'll give you that much. But across the nation, I've probably received well over 200 inquiries from other departments who want to know about our car, and they want to know what we did to it, what we found for the pitfalls in it. Several departments, and like I said, the one in New York just picked up a Model Y to do the same thing because they were so impressed when they came out and saw the capabilities of the car.
Oh yeah, so Officer Sampson, I forgot that there's the hidden part of the trunk back here. It looks like you've got some computer brains. What's going on back here?
So basically, when we put the car together, we need to find a place for all this equipment. Typically, it would also be in the trunk of a normal police car. Just because they had the spare wheel well here available, it was a perfect spot for us to put it. You have your light controller and also our radio. This car will also be outfitted shortly with a modem so that it can talk back and forth to the police station. Perfectly out of the way. It's safe. You don't have to worry about, you know, people putting equipment in there and breaking something. So it was a perfect spot for it. Our installers did a great job of keeping everything neat and clean, and allowing us expansion when we need to add more technology.
Like you could put stuff on the walls of it or whatever.
Yes.
Now, does it get warm? Like, I assume that this stuff is generating heat, but do you need to worry about like cooling it or?
No, so it does get warm, but it will work at the normal temperature, and it is made for this, yes.
That's great. So, I mean, that's another advantage there, is because normally, like you said, this would have to just get stuck in the trunk somewhere.
Absolutely.
Wow. I didn't realize you guys had so much cool gear. That's awesome. You know, us Tesla owners look forward to the updates that come out because we might get a game or something like that, but now police officers can look forward to them too, because you're going to start getting like updates that you can utilize.
We're hoping that one of the updates shortly is the actual light controller being built into the car computer.
That's gonna be cool.
So that, you know, when you go to your game on the screen, I'm gonna do the same swipe, but I'm gonna get the light controller, so I can turn my lights and my sirens on right in front of me.
That's really cool.
Absolutely.
Wow. So, Chief, I remember early on when we were trying to get police officers interested in the car, there was a story that came out, I think it was in California, where a Tesla police car ran out of juice on a high-speed chase. And the big headline was like, you know, electric car is not up for the task or something like that. Like, how do you respond to that? Is that something that police chiefs should be worried about?
My initial response is going to be silliness. Really, you could run out of regular fuel, depending on what it is. An officer's responsibility. Where at your shift? What are you doing? What are your capabilities? One of the things, and we're very strict in our pursuit policies, is your vehicle capable of being involved in a pursuit? And we know that I need to put vehicles that are capable on the fleet, but the person who knows best is the operator of that vehicle. So that being said, you need to keep in mind throughout your shift. I mean, you know, we often have to dispatch animals. Well, what do you do after you put down an animal? You come in and you replenish your sources in your gun. You don't go back out shift after shift after putting down 3 animals with low on ammunition. So it comes back to officer responsibility, officer diligence, and quite honestly, in an environment like ours, backup is not 20 minutes away. Most of the time it's within less than a minute or within a couple minutes. So using that as an excuse, there should always be a secondary car that jumps into that pursuit.
See, I can see this is why you're the chief, because if I was the chief, I would have had all my officers just jump in the Tesla the first day. And you're right, having them go slow, learn how it works is really smart.
There's so many different things, and failure can come really quick if we don't take baby steps in this. There's going to come a time that we have to take longer strides, or they're going to say, what are you doing? It's still in the infancy. Where we were a few years ago when it comes to electric cars and we are today, if you look at it from the police side, we're probably behind. But catching up fast is not the answer either.
I want to give a huge shout out to the Westport, Connecticut Police Department. Thank you so much, Chief. Thank you so much, Officer Sampson. It was so much fun riding around in a police car. I thought I'd never say that, but I did. It was so much fun. Thank you for having us and showing us this police car. It was so much fun to learn about it.
And thank you so much for doing this, because without police departments like yours, we wouldn't ever see a Tesla police car, I don't think.
Thanks for watching.
Now you know.